90% of our relationships have a financial situation somewhere, either pushing it along or holding it back. 90%. Not you. That means out of 10, only one is not having financial struggles. Is that you? So on your block or wherever you live or whoever you fellowship, you can line up 10 people and only one of them may not be experiencing financial difficulty. And so for many of us, we don't know what it's like, the magnitude of what it means to feel God's grace concerning our fight. We just don't have any clue. And therefore, we take that same spirit into the relationship, and it causes all kinds of problems. All kinds of problems. We don't realize it because we mask it with something else, but at the bottom of it is finances, our disappointment with each other concerning finances. And as I said, it's the kindergarten. Secondly, there is faithlessness. Look at verse 10. Verse 10 says that if you and I are unfaithful in very little things, we'll be unfaithful in much. There should be no surprise to you and I that our money is always funny when we've been unfaithful to God. Should be no surprise. Should be no surprise, no mystery to anybody in here if your change is always strange because you've been unfaithful to God. It shouldn't be a surprise, should it? Absolutely not. If there's always more month left than money, there should be no surprise if you and I have been unfaithful to God. The first priority of Christian living is giving generously to God. Let me ask you a question. Would a farmer with 10 acres, now we talked about this before, who plows right down the middle of his 10 acres, would he be surprised at harvest time if he did not reap the whole field? No, what he would be is a fool if he thought he could plow right down the middle, plant that, and reap the whole field. That's a fool. And so we don't want to be a fool, do we? We don't want to fail in the basics of Christian money management. The moment you and I raised your hand and said you are a Christian, the second thing I'm looking at is how you handle your money. Now let me say this. I know for a fact that many of you make much more money than I do. But I also know you would not be able to tell by looking at our giving record. I know that. And so what I want us to do today is to begin to look at what it means, first of all, to be faithful. In the basics, the ABCs. You know, some of us want to get deep and we want to understand God at a deeper level. Now, what about just the ABCs? What about just understanding God and the ABCs of Christian living? Do you understand that? That our first responsibility is giving generously to God. Many of us don't know that. He who is faithful over much, and he who is faithless over little, will be the same in both regards. But then verse 11 says something really, really special to us. I like that. Therefore, he says, as a result of what I just said about money, if you have not been faithful in the use of righteous money, who then will entrust you with true riches? Right. I made my little notes here, so let me go over this as we look at this first Sunday message. true riches. Not synthetic riches. Not riches that you and I fabricate. See, because that credit card fabricates a whole bunch of stuff that's not real. You know, borrowing outside of our means fabricates some things that are not real. Am I in the right place? And I discovered in the class, I hope y'all come on and join this class. I discovered in the class that I purchased my car wrong. See, because I thought I knew. I thought I was smart concerning money. And when I discovered that, I said, God, look at all of the other things that I have done wrong. Lying to myself that I'm all right, I'm doing okay. No money in my pocket. No real assets to do anything with. Lying to myself. So God said, listen, I'm going to help you recover because you understand the first responsibility. You know, when you don't understand our first responsibility, you know what doesn't happen for some? You remember when we were younger, right? And you got hurt, your children, Brandon, and you know they heal so quickly, though. Yeah, no, they fall, they get hurt, they heal so quickly, don't they? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you and I fall, and we still dragging around that leg 2 months later. You know what I discovered about making sure that I give generously to God? You know what I discovered? My recovery time is quicker. When I make a bad decision, when I do something that's foolish, my recovery time is quicker. Because I understand my first responsibility, my first obligation, and that is to give generously to God. And God acknowledges that. Sometimes we fall down from giving to God. Now, you know, we talked about this before. And, you know, how much do we give? Some of us are still giving God that old crumbled up dollar. Some of us are still playing games with God. You know, we want to give fanfare over what we give once. Never give back to God again and wonder why our money is funny. Amen. It is because of unfaithfulness. So, not synthetic riches. That's not what we're talking about. Not superficial riches. But sure riches. Sufficient riches. That's what we're talking about. And you know, and please, I don't want you to do this. Don't confuse what we're getting ready to talk about in terms of giving, or my talking about giving any first Sunday with what you see on TV. You see, because I discovered that true riches don't always involve money. I just gave you that example of once I've given that example of having children. And boy, you try to scrape your money together and to get them something that they could really use, and you got it for them, and boy, they were so happy. See, you can't buy that. Remember I told you, you can buy a beautiful rock wallet, but only love will make that dog wag its tail. Am I right about that? You can get your cat all the shots, but only love will make that cat lay down and let you brush him. Not me.